This is Good Game Bro, and we're here every Thursday afternoon on your favorite podcast app, roughly around like 3 p.m. Eastern or so. And if you haven't given us a 5-star rating yet, you know the deal. You're below 5 feet tall and you'll never reach that height or that shelf in the store that you want to reach something.
Or like the elevator button. Can you imagine can you imagine living like the top floor of like a penthouse and being under 5 feet tall? You'd have to like go up to like the fifth floor. No. You have fifth floor and then just go up the steps.
Yeah, you'll never be able to live in a penthouse unless you give us a 5-star rating. Your height will instantly, allegedly, increase. But the gentleman you heard over there with the smooth voice, well, he currently has a full beard for now. It's my incredible co-host Mills. How you been?
Why is the intro always about my beard at this point? Are you going to talk about my baby bottomed chin when it's gone on June 11th? Like the day oh my God, I know the day. I know it's so soon. It's like just over 2 weeks. I'm freaking out a little bit. Not gonna lie.
I'm excited.
How many people? Like I told you last week, how many people have gotten a haircut based on the fact that they're losing a beard? That's what I did. I literally got a haircut so that way I can like make my fat face not look so fat. It's all right. When that fourth chin rolls out from the Adam's apple, boys and girls, you know it's real. Hold on, let me take another sip of this Mountain Dew, by the way.
In the words of a philosopher that all of us know, Bart Scott, can't wait.
Known philosopher, known scholar, Bart Scott, linebacker for the Jets and Ravens. For those of you of the uneducated.
Great times. Mills, what have you been playing this past week?
It's actually been a weird week. MLB has kind of like sunk its hooks back into me with Diamond Dynasty, and coming up this Friday is a huge content drop for them, both offline and online. They're going to have a Team Affinity 2 is dropping, which is a huge grind. They're teasing a bunch of players. There is a new roster update coming Friday. There's also like new sets, new collections, all kinds of crazy stuff. This is like their second launch, I think. Like they have these milestones throughout the season. This is the next big one. It's a huge content day for MLB coming up. I mean, no franchise fixes, but I mean, seeing some of the franchise. We have this group of us that are now posting like trades up on Twitter every time a crazy like trade happens. It's getting bad, man. It's getting bad.
Yeah, but, I mean, in my franchise, I had Vlad Guerrero Jr. was on the trade block. So I definitely went and acquired him.
Well, because he's not a first baseman. Yeah, he's a third baseman. So as a third baseman, he doesn't show value, even as a secondary first baseman, which Toronto should see. Like he's got a great bat and great potential, but because he's a third baseman and they've got a bunch of infielders, he now becomes trade bait, and they don't see that secondary position. Again, another thing that the CPU misses.
Yeah, they could fix a lot of things if they just had sort of like a. NBA 2K, for example, has, untouchables, right? Which is a great feature because you can immediately go in, and we all play franchise, or most of us, I hope, play franchise. And you get that thing where it's like trade request when you're simming a couple of weeks. And you're just like, if I just put them as untouchable, that means the CPU knows you cannot trade for this player. I can't go get them. Same thing when you go to get one of their players, you can't get them, which I love.
The CPU uses those lists, which is that's the real key, because CPU can offer you all the trades you want, and you could just say no. But if the CPU uses the untouchables list correctly, that's when it really starts to evolve as you feel like you're facing off against a human GM instead of just a CPU that you can kind of take advantage of. And NBA 2K is not perfect. I mean, there's still some things wrong with their My NBA mode, but they are light years ahead when it comes to CPU AI, like team management and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. You've been playing Knockout City, because I've been spending probably too much time playing that. I streamed it for a couple hours of the night. It's so good.
It is so good. We talked about this. I've talked about this on Twitter. I really believe Knockout City is the next like big team game. I can't wait. There's going to be a Twitch Rivals, or there's going to be all kinds of events around this. Valon Studios, who is I don't think EA owns them. I think EA is publishing the game. They may own them, I actually think. But I talked to a couple of their developers in pre-release. They just know. They get it. They understand. Easy to pick up, hard to master. They understand competitive balance and having all of those things work. It's completely cross-play. You don't feel of an advantage having mouse and keyboard over controller. Both of them are really good. There's enough there's enough difference in like the different types of balls and the different maps, whereas you get to feel that like difference in gameplay without affecting what we're gonna call, I hate these two words, but it is the skill gap in the game. Like they're like the good players are still really good no matter what map or what balls they're using. So I really enjoy it, man. And I've played solos drop in. I've played with a team of three. It's definitely better with a team of three, but solos drop ins very playable.
Yeah, I've only played solos drop in. Same way I play Rocket League. I play Rocket League and I'm crazy for it, but I play either duos or trios and I solo drop, and it can be an amazing experience or it can be the worst experience that makes you want to turn the game off early. I have had in Knockout City literally nothing but fun. I do judge my teammates' ability though solely off their like clothing in the game.
Right.
I'm like, oh, we got a stack squad.
It's like Fortnite, seeing like the soccer skins in Fortnite.
100%.
Like you're immediately like, oh, okay, this is either really sweaty dude or
Your
like
whole outfit's
this
in neon. Yeah,
right.
You're definitely good.
Yeah, oh, that's what mine is. Mine is like the little like eye guard with the little
So
like
good.
type in as you go in. That's, you gotta have a little intimidation as you walk in, right? For those of
Absolutely.
you who don't know, by the way, Knockout City is a 3v3 dodgeball arena experience. It came out with EA. If you have Game Pass or EA Play, you have the game already. It's already available to you on Xbox and PC. I believe it's only $30 otherwise, but there is also an additional bundle you can purchase, which I did purchase just to support the studio. Because again, while a lot of people are like, oh, EA, this is Valon Studios doing this game. And they're, again, fantastic what they've done with this. It's a great experience. There's a lot to master. Curve balls, being able to catch the ball, even the outer rim. So for those who don't know, you lock on targets with the balls. That's how you throw the ball. And the outer edge of your screen turns red when someone near you is locking on. And then when the ball leaves the person's hand, you get a little white dot, like a little white bulge out of the red.
Kind of, yeah.
Right. So that way, it's a really smart way of not getting completely frustrated about where did I get hit from. At the same time, it is small enough to where if you're focusing on a battle in front of you, you will miss it at times. It just really, I love smart games. And as easy as this is to play, it's so intelligent on how it handles itself and how it handles combat.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is I think we're all at a point in our life, not all of us, right? If you're younger, you've got way more time in your hands than you realize, right? For us old folk, you don't have as much time as necessarily one. And knowing that you can get a couple of games in a very short period of time, the games are played to 10 eliminations. Each person has essentially 2 hits they can take before they're knocked out, and then you respawn after like 5 or 6 seconds. But the games go by relatively quickly. Like you'll knock out a couple of games and be like, oh, okay, this hasn't really been that long at all. It feels like the perfect length though of you play the game, and I never feel, unless someone drops out and you're playing like 3v1 or 1v3, I've never felt when I play one of those games that I'm like, oh, this is too long or this is too short. It just feels like the appropriate amount of time to me, which is a really hard balance to find, I think, in games now.
It's incredibly hard. It's really hard to have that easy to play, and it doesn't feel. This is something that I really love about it. Is it doesn't feel bad when you lose because it's so quick. You're already worried about the next match. Like even if you lose a couple in a row, like I don't get that frustration from losing a couple in a row, which is crazy because I do feel that frustration at times. Like if you're in a 9-inning ranked season game with MLB and you're in the 7th inning getting your tail kicked to you, and it's like 3 games in and you're 0-3, like you start to feel that because you've spent 2.5 hours playing games with nothing to show for it. Whereas here, like even when you're losing, there's this like XP. I'm gonna call it a battle pass because that's what it is. Even though you can't see it, I feel like I'm gaining like skins and all kinds of different little things. Even when I'm losing, which is kind of cool. Honestly, I really like it. And season 1 just started on Tuesday. And they've got a new mode, a new map, and like all kind, and the marketplace is new, and they got new skins and everything. Like that's what you need in this type of game. Fortnite. Here's the thing: people always liken games to Fortnite, right? They're like, oh well, Fortnite, it's free to play, but they always have players. And believe me, people are like, oh, Fortnite's dead. Fortnite's not dead by any means, because they continue to put content into the game. It's still at its base will always be Fortnite. But at the same time, the map's shifting. You're getting these new skins. You're getting a new battle pass every once in a while. New season, it becomes the number one game on Twitch. That's the thing for me that I love. And that's what I need. That's what we're going to need Knockout City to do consistently if it wants to reach that Rocket League, level.
Amen. I think the last thing for me when I think about this game is Knockout City has put the perfect blueprint for arcade sports titles to thrive. You have short matches that are both rewarding and not frustrating when you're losing. You have sort of a battle pass element, even though the battle pass I don't believe calls anything. I think it's just sort of like there, like that XP system they sort of have.
It is. It's like a bunch of contracts, and then it doesn't even tell you. I don't actually believe it's truly battle pass because I think the rewards are randomized. Like It gives you, it says like you're going to get an epic reward, but we're not going to tell you what it is. That's also cool because different people get different rewards and you can look a little different from everybody else.
Agreed. But as I look through this and you see sort of like the store for just, again, solely cosmetics. Thank you so much, team, for developing it that way.
Yes.
When you're seeing all these different things, it looks like the development team looked at the landscape, made something that is unique, but also learned from what the industry is doing and saying, we can put our own spin on things. We can make a unique game, make it fun and engaging, make it fair and balanced, make it have a casual element, a competitive element, because the league play just launched, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago from the time of this, you hearing this.
Yep.
I hope more and more sports titles look at this and say, we can make an arcade game in the same vein and do what they're doing and still have it be received really well. That's what I hope comes out of this, as well as their own success.
I want NFL Blitz in this kind of, can you imagine having like a ranked NFL Blitz leaderboard, but at the same time being able to play 3v3 with your friends?
Oh man.
Like that's the real beauty here, is it doesn't force you anyway. You get XP no matter what, and the XP doesn't really matter. It's just skins.
And character customization.
Although we judge people, right?
I mean, yeah, I definitely judge people. Well, because it's experience, and I'm like, well, you got something nice. But the character customization, the last thing I'll say, I know this is turned into a Knockout City podcast, which I'm not against, but
I'm okay with it, yeah.
The character customization is so cool too, because they have so many different things. They even have voice types. They have there's like an ultimate explosion where your teammate launches you up after they supercharge you. There's ones where you get knockouts. Like, there's so many different things that I've literally had people on my team knock out people, or I've gotten knocked out and been like, yo, what is that? And then it immediately makes me go look in the shop or look through my things that I've unlocked and say, do I have that? I need that. I need to go figure out how to like unlock that by leveling up more or whatever.
How do I get that whoopee cushion? That's what I want. The whoopee cushion ultimate, man, where it just goes. I was like, that's awesome. Incredible. And the sounds of the knockouts change too. Did you notice that when you have the little different knockout like logos, it changes that. Even the back bling. Like the back bling you can make for your crew, because you can make different and have everybody have the same back bling. Oh, it's so cool, man.
So nice.
It's so cool. What's also cool though, I'm going to be the first one to admit this, okay? I've stated for the longest time that boxing needs superstars, and that a true boxing game would need to have superstars and legends. Esports Boxing Club is unbelievable in what they're doing right now. The roster they're accruing, if this game even plays, above average, it has a chance to be huge. ESBC adds Canelo Alvarez to their roster. Probably the biggest name in boxing today, the biggest mainstream name. When you say Canelo Alvarez, that's a ticket. That is a ticket that people purchase to watch boxing. Not only do they sign him, he is announced as the cover athlete, which again is another massive thing, because if people see Canelo Alvarez, they go, okay, this is a boxing game. And they go, wow, I haven't had a boxing game since what? Knockout Kings?
Oh my gosh.
Fight Night? Like any of these, like it's such a massive deal for them to have, because it gives you credibility. Like no matter what the gameplay is like, and the gameplay is looking good in some of the alpha video we've seen, but it gives you immediate credibility with casual fans, with people that are just like, I know Canelo Alvarez is. This game looks cool. Maybe I'm going to buy that, especially in the way the stores are set up right now. I don't think people understand how important it is to have a flashy cover on the Xbox and PlayStation store, and having Canelo Alvarez on there is an immediate face for people to go, oh, boxing, let's go. The same way like having Conor McGregor on a UFC 4 cover or a UFC cover. So big stuff for them. And I mean, GGB, This thing's got a shot, right? This thing, from what we've seen, this thing's got a shot, right?
It has a shot. I think the hardest part about boxing games, right? There are two things that are really difficult that always end up being either a shining light or a glaring like what are you doing light. To me, those things are typically like, do you get the movement down? Movement's always a big thing. Stamina is always a big thing. And then when you have real boxers, it's the authenticity part, right? We can look at a lot of different sports and say, oh, okay, it's fine. Like, we don't care if that guy moves like this guy or whatever. Some sports, it matters more than others. Boxers, it 100% matters if the fighters are moving, because each fighter has a distinctive style. Some fight with their hands up, some fight with their hands down. You got bolo punches. You've got awkward ways that they jab or throw hooks or throw uppercuts, or their head movement. Some have heads that, stay super still. Others are wild and crazy. There's so many different nuances to boxing, from how they fight to what they look like. I hope they can nail that, and I hope that the gameplay, user versus user, is solid. It doesn't have to be amazing. Just give us solid user versus user gameplay. User versus CPU is going to be another big thing, obviously, but for that to have legs and to have esports in your name for your title, you need the user versus user gameplay to be above average for sure.
And I will say one more thing that I'd like to see from it, and it's something UFC brought in. I need like a knockout mode, or like an arcade-ish style mode, because there are going to be people that want to pick up this game and do not want to learn how to box.
True.
One of the things about UFC is that the takedown, the wrestling game in UFC, the portion of the game in UFC, incredibly tough to master, and a lot of people just don't want to deal with it. So they play what is it? I think it's called knockout mode.
I think it is. Yeah.
Where you could just stand and bang. This game needs something like that. Even if it's just a simple, just 1v1 thing, this game needs something where it's all about big swings, because boxing at its heart, while you can have a simulation like fun life, the reason people watch boxing is the whole gladiator versus gladiator thing. We got to have a big fight mode in it. I really hope they're going to include something like that. If they don't, so be it. Maybe, it's obviously this is an indie title, first time out. I can understand missing something like that, but I think that's a key. I think that's a key to bringing in a larger audience for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great point. I think you're right. You need accessibility from both gameplay and then also for mode. So if they want to capture that crowd, especially boxing isn't necessarily known. Boxing is all hardcore right now. There are very few casual boxing fans right now. They've all went to UFC. So if you want to get that casual audience in, you need the stand and bang mode basically to bring them back.
Talking about bringing audiences back, the NBA playoffs this week in sports. Let's go to it. The NBA playoffs are in full swing now. A couple of things I didn't really count for. The Golden State Warriors, I didn't think had a chance, or I didn't think we're going to get bounced by the Grizzlies. So the Grizzlies bounced the Warriors and now have upset the Jazz. They're up 1-0 on the Jazz and looking really, really good. Tell me, do you think the re-addition of the frustrated Donovan Mitchell in game 2 changes this series?
I think it does. I don't think it changes it maybe as much in game 2. Maybe Mitchell comes out and is literally what they play at the time of this recording. They're going to be playing tonight, the time of the recording. So tomorrow the game will have already been over for you guys. I think Mitchell comes out, probably has like a low 20s game, probably is more involved in the assist side than he is like points. I think this swings it back in the Jazz's favor. I think Memphis coming out and stealing one at Utah is a wake-up call for them. Like, they're the number one seed. You're fighting a young and scrappy team with a young point guard who everyone was like, oh, he can't shoot. And yes, Ja has had some streaky things with shooting. But there's one dude that I'm not counting out. It is Ja Morant. The same way I don't count out Russell Westbrook when he's on the court, I don't count out Ja Morant. Ja Morant is a fiery young dude who is ready to lead a team at 21, 22 years of age. I'm always giving him a puncher's chance. Utah is a better team than Memphis, and Dillon Brooks won't really have the same game he had in game 1 because he was able to be free defensively. Now he has to be guarding Donovan Mitchell again and give him some checks. So Brooks is probably more normal. Ja probably still hits. This is going to be much more closer than I think we thought, and the Jazz will end up squeaking out in 6.
So I will say this is Ja Morant might be the most... I won't say influential. What's the word I'm looking for? I think he turns the tables faster than anybody else in the league right now. when he's on, and I'm including guys like LeBron James, who is having his time in Phoenix right now. But when you watch Moran play, when you watch Ja play, it is, God, you really hate to speculate to like compare, but it's Iverson-esque. Like when he plays, when he starts to go downhill, it feels like the Grizzlies go with him. When he gets on fire, it feels like the Grizzlies are there with him. It doesn't feel like it's just him. It feels like he makes everybody else better, which is crazy because that's not the guard he was supposed to be in the league. True. He was supposed to be the big scoring guard, but now it feels like he gives confidence to that entire team. I feel like he did it against Golden State, and in game 1 against the Jazz, I thought he did it. I agree with you. The Jazz are the better squad, bar none. But if Morant has a playoff run, a la Jimmy Butler from last year, or, at any point, there's not a sport going where one player can make more of a difference than in the NBA, not a team sport going where one player can make more of a difference than in the NBA. They need to be careful, and what they need to start doing is doubling Moran and just telling him, all right, listen, you know, one of two ways to play him as Jazz. He's either going to get his points, but nobody else is, or we're stopping him. Everybody else can beat us, but he's not going to beat us.
I like how you're thinking. Do you know who I think maybe a more modern comparison for Ja Morant is, but he's what we wanted this guy to actually be? And this is going to hurt you and me both being from where we're from. He's what we wanted John Wall to be. And John Wall had an incredible stretch, right?
Yep. Injuries stopped John
Injuries
Wall.
Obviously took John Wall out. But I think Ja isn't as fast as John Wall was at his peak. But Ja is what we essentially wanted John Wall to be, where I don't know if I'd say Ja's a better shooter, but in terms of getting his teammates involved more consistently and being that like fiery, like personality that people like really are drawn to and not necessarily like turned off by, from what we can gather. I think Ja's that dude. So I would love to see the Grizzlies upset my twin brother in the Jazz, but I just don't know if it necessarily, happens this year. But I just would love to see it.
Hey, your twin brother's still getting Defensive Player of the Year at some point, so let's go with that. By the way, congratulations to Julius Randle, who overtook I think both of our choice for most improved player was was Porter, right? We both thought Porter was going to win that. Julius Randle absolutely deserved it. And I saw a stat the other day that he has taken more and had a better percentage at the 3-point line than he's ever had, which shows the confidence he's playing with, which is great to see. I hope he continues that. That being said, he's having his own problems right now because the Knicks have their hands full with the Hawks, including Trae Young. Now, Trae Young has been, hit or miss at times in the NBA. He's been, for the most part, when he's on, and he's on more than he's not, he's been a superstar. But then Trae Young decides, I think it's time to stir the boat in New York. Talk to me about Trae Young's comments at the end of game 1. And they're playing right now. They're actually playing as we're recording this and beating the Knicks by 7 in the second quarter. But please, Trae Young's comments at the end of the Knicks game.
I cannot express how much I loved what Trae Young did.
Yes!
I am a person on the basketball court that my wife said she stopped coming to watch my men's league games as I talked too much trash. It was annoying to hear people, yell at me in the stands. When Trae Young was saying it sounded kind of quiet in here and telling them to, shut the up and stuff, like I am 100% here for that. You were playing in the Garden. There is no arena that has been, I guess, just sort of like forced to watch bad basketball for such a long time that we hold in such just like high regard than Madison Square Garden. The peak of Madison Square Garden has been forever, but when players go there over the years, whether it was young LeBron, when Carmelo would go there, when he played for Denver, then ultimately when he went there, every young player, when they go there, wants to show out on the Garden because it is New York, New York. There is still a massive audience there, and you want to be the guy that took out, the team in the Big Apple.
Spike Lee 5 feet from you the entire time, by the way.
100%. Like what else could you want? Some young person already listening to our podcast. Who's Spike Lee? Google. I think Atlanta's going to be really fun. I think the biggest thing though for Atlanta, Trae Young is playing how we would imagine Trae Young to play, right? The natural evolution of him through his young career. We knew his style, right? Mm-hmm. the biggest piece for them, though, is that there's someone else. There's other players that are now able to step up and contribute now along with Trae Young. Clint Capella's been pretty solid. I've really loved him.
Capella's been amazing this season, yeah.
He's had a couple of dips, but for the most part, he has been... I've looked at him and said, why did Houston trade him? The biggest thing for me, though, when I look at this, right, there's a lot of players that are contributing for Atlanta. Bogdan Bogdanovic. He was supposed to be in Milwaukee.
Yep.
And if I'm Giannis, I am furious. Yes, Milwaukee just eviscerated the Heat the other night by
and we'll continue to, by the way. We'll continue to, by the way, yeah.
When they start playing, when they get into the next round, right? Like I'm looking at now, Milwaukee will face Brooklyn or Boston. Let's face it, they're facing Brooklyn. Bogdan Bogdanovic would do wonders for them having him in that lineup. They do not have him because of the weirdness of Sacramento and Vlade Divac in that trade.
Mm-hmm.
He is helping out significantly. That's another shooter. You can't really double down when Trae Young is coming off the drive. When Trae Young's got dudes on an island right now, like Atlanta could be a little bit of a problem. Like if they would ultimately face Philly or Washington, I mean, they're going to face Philly. They're going to give Philly some problems. Yep. I mean, Embiid is going to help them win that series, but Trae Young is going to make Philly a little angry.
And here's the thing, like one of the reasons I wanted to see the Pacers against the Sixers was Miles Turner. I really think Capella's got a shot against Embiid. Like if both these series continue the way they are, like Capella's played real minutes, like real solid minutes. So you said Houston wants to know what the hell happened because Capella was supposed to be the next superstar down there. John Collins has helped them out. Kevin Huerter's been helping them out. Dude, Cam Reddish hasn't even played in the playoffs,
which blows my mind.
Right, and he was one of their main scorers. Lou Williams. Lou Williams scored 13 and 14 minutes in the first game. Like,
you want to know why?
Playoff Lou.
Well, he's got he can get his favorite. Favorite
he's
sign at his
he's in Atlanta, or is it New York and Atlanta? Like, if you want to go to two places for his favorite establishments, you can Google that too, chat. By the way, but even a guy like Gallinari, like those guys, that team is built really well together and built around Trae Young. But to hear Trae Young say this is what you want to see if you're the NBA. If you're David Silver, if you're these guys, you want to see this guy step up and start talking. You know why? Because he was on the front page of the New York Times. He's in the front page of the sports section, dude. He is villain, hero. I don't care what he is. People are talking about the Knicks-Hawks series now. They're talking about the Knicks-Hawks series when we've got Lakers-Suns going on, Jazz-Grizzlies going on. We've got Milwaukee-Miami going on, the Sixers and Wizards going on, and people are talking about Trae Young. That's the big thing here. Because the other thing they're talking about is not so great, and that's Luka Doncic absolutely running the Clippers ragged for 2 games. And I will say right here, I was the first one to think the Clippers were going to run the Mavericks off the court. I said 5 games max. I really did, because I thought they've got Doncic, but nobody else on that team is really playing that well right now. Like, they weren't. It doesn't matter. Luka has decided, this is my series. I'm showing out. My guy went from like a 91 to a 99 plus. My dude is playing at hundreds of levels at this point. Dude, what can the Clippers do right now to get back in the series?
I just want to first tell you, the Clippers are who I thought they were.
They 100%. I'll say it.
Also, Luka Doncic has only played against the Clippers in his postseason career. So he has only been matched up against Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in his young career.
That's a rough set of numbers in there.
He has torched them. If you look at his average, I think it's almost a triple-double for his average. He had one game of like 13 points was a triple-double, but I think the rest of them, if I remember correctly, have all been 20-odd plus points at this side.
Yep.
If you're the Clippers, here's what you do. You build a little shrine, okay? And you go to that shrine and you say, dear little imaginary shrine, how do I turn Paul George from way off P to playoff P? That's what they need to figure out.
Hold on. To be fair, George hasn't been terrible.
You need Paul George to have an ungodly defensive effort and offensive effort.
Here's the issue. So Kawhi Leonard's averaging 33 so far, okay? Paul George is averaging 26. Like, after that, they've got Batum averaging 10, and that's it. That's it. Paul George is averaging 5.5 assists through 2 games. The other person up there with him is Kawhi at 4.5. Rondo's averaging 5.5. Rondo has to average almost double digits. Right, I'm looking at it right now. Marcus Morris 6 point. Marcus Morris has averages 6.5 in 2 games. Reggie Jackson 8.5. Patrick Beverly,
sir, a lot of money,
sir. You're making too much money to have Luka Doncic run you around the court like he is right now. You're 32 years old. Stop playing like you're 38.
He's running everybody, slow. Though. He's running everybody.
But Beverly's the one that slaps the floor, slaps his chest, and says, "Bring it to me." He's the one that wants it. He's the one that's their stopper. Him and Kawhi.
How tall is Patrick Beverly? What is he, 6'3"?
I don't care.
6'1". He's 6'1". How tall is Paul George? How tall is Paul George? I'm looking it up right now. Paul George is like
6'7".
6'8".
6'8", yeah, 6'8".
This is Paul George's defensive responsibility. It should be Kawhi's. We know he's going to come out here with the hamstring injury, so you got to protect the best player on that team. This is Kawhi. I mean, this is Paul George's opportunity to show out. You need to be seen more defensively as a shutdown. Who is going to do anything in the Mavericks besides the greatest basketball player of all time, Dwight Powell? Who is going to do anything other than Luka on the Mavericks? No one.
No one has. It's been him and you ready for who's been the second leading scorer? Tim Hardaway Jr.
Hey, you got the bloodline. But if you're Paul George, if you're Paul George, this is your opportunity to show people that you are ready to be a champion. Paul George is a number 2 on the majority of NBA teams in the league, with taking out the bottom third. Paul George needs to step up and be the defensive player he used to be and showcase that he can be the Luka stopper. He will get more respect being a Luka stopper than chucking, 20-foot twos that are terrible NBA shots.
Here's the difference between these two teams right now. I just ran you off that only 3 players are averaging double digits, and one of them is 10 with Nicholas Batum, right? For the Clippers, right?
Why is Batum still in the NBA?
The Mavericks are Doncic at 30, Doncic at 35, right? Here's the rest of them. Finney Smith, 10.5. Hardaway Jr., 24.5. Porzingis, 17. Jalen Brunson, 12. He's at 24 points in 2 games. 9.5 for Maxi Kleber. The difference is Doncic's averaging 9 assists a game, and they're moving the ball way better than the Clippers. And the Clippers have Kawhi at 5 assists, Paul George at 4 assists. Rondo needs to come up and be that. We need playoff Rondo back. They need playoff Rondo. That's the key here.
That ship sailed.
Yeah, it might have, but they need somebody. This team, and there have been people that joke about this team and having an established ball handling point guard, so that way Kawhi and Paul George don't have to be the main ball handler bringing the ball up the court. There have been people joking about that all season, all year, and that was the reason they got Rondo. They got Rondo for offensively for the time right now. They need Rondo to be that guy. They need Rondo to be the facilitator. It can't be Kawhi and Paul George. Kawhi and Paul George need to be the scorers, and that's what they have to continue to be. But that means other people are going to have to score when they start to get shut down.
I guarantee Rondo cussed out everybody after game 2.
100%. After that, oh my God. You know what happened? They shut it down in the regular season, and they couldn't turn the switch back on. And how many times has that happened? Hey guys, shut it down for a couple games. It's okay. We want the 4th seed, and they can't turn it back on. Can't turn it back on like the Lakers did, that's for sure. Like the Lakers did in game 2, because I was scared for the Lakers in game 1. You want to talk about a team I was worried about?
No.
I was scared for the Lakers for 2 reasons. Number 1, Anthony Davis didn't show up. I understand Anthony Davis is going to have off games. That's fine. I'm scared when LeBron becomes more actor than he is basketball player. And I watched LeBron have Chris Paul pull down his arm for about half a second, fall like he was shot from the 2nd level, realize no one was paying attention to him, stand back up, walk over to the spot where the cameras were pointing to, and fall back down like he was shot again. There was 2 shooters on the grassy knoll. They both caught LeBron, and it had to be where the cameras were. And that's a 2nd game in a row he did that. That scares me, because that's an aging superstar trying to make sure that he gets every call he possibly can. I have a problem with that. It scares me. Now, they came back in the 2nd game. They look really good. and it was more role players. Caruso played some good defense in second game.
Caruso's a stud. Great role player.
I love Caruso. That's what he needed to do. He needed to play defense. But Chris Paul with 2 arms, this series might be looking a lot different than it is right now. Chris Paul is the 1-arm man.
Okay, what we're not going to do is slander the greatest basketball player of all time, LeBron James.
I'm not slandering Chris. No, hold on. You don't understand. I've given LeBron James all the respect in the world. What I saw in game 1 was shameful. No. It was shameful. Tell me he didn't walk to a spot where everyone was standing.
Let me drop a little knowledge on you, okay?
Oh, God, here we go.
First of all, there's an insane amount of cameras. LeBron knowing the camera's always on LeBron. There's a LeBron camera, just like there's a Luka camera, just like there's a Devin Booker camera. There's a camera for all these superstars. Maybe there's 2 for LeBron. He's the greatest of all time. But here's my argument. LeBron is 6'9", 265, 270, probably closer to 270 right now because of that ankle injury.
Yeah.
LeBron is treated the same way. Hear me out. I'm making a parallel for you. The same way that Cam Newton is treated when he was a superstar in the NFL.
Okay.
Because he is a large-bodied freak of nature that we have never seen anything the likes of before. So when LeBron is going through and getting what would be ticky-tack fouls, like LeBron getting fouled is treated differently than Chris Paul getting treated fouled or Kawhi or Paul George because they're not built the same way that he is. LeBron has to take more physical damage. So I think it's important for LeBron to act out a little bit, right? The same way that Cam Newton, to get some of those penalties that were not called on him because he was a big-bodied mobile quarterback, he had to act out to get some of those called. This is the same thing that every big freak of nature has gone through in the NBA. Shaquille O'Neal had to go through it.
I was going to say Shaq was the next one, yeah.
Embiid had to go through it, and people forget that Embiid was doing the same sort of actor behavior when he finally got on the court, and now Embiid is averaging 10 free throws plus a game because he's figured out a way to get referees to see the impact that is happening on his large body. So I think it's more of a cause of LeBron being like, I'm not getting these calls. I got to make sure they see it. So I'm going to flail and act a little bit. I don't blame him.
But LeBron hasn't done this throughout his career. He's
36.
So what you're saying is he's getting older and he understands he needs to get to the free throw line a little bit more, or he needs to get a couple more calls.
I think he's doing it because for twofold. Yes, that reason where he's like, I need to get more calls, get to the free throw line, get these easy buckets, and practice on his free throws. Because good God,
I
think the other thing is he's like, no basketball player has been ever smarter than LeBron James. I truly believe that. I think LeBron is looking at his career. He's like, I'm 36. I've been in the league for 18 years. I want to play 3, 4, 5 more years at somewhat of a high level. He needs to make sure that he has as little impact on his body as possible. LeBron's body is starting to show signs of weakness, and we never thought that would happen. This is Superman. This is the NBA Superman. I think he is making a conscious decision to show these things, so the referees are seeing him as being vulnerable. The NBA then seeing him as vulnerable means he's going to get more fouls called for him, which he needs for both in-game performance and longevity that he wants to have in the NBA.
I can see that. I'll give it to you. Lakers in 5.
No.
Was game 1 the wake-up call, or is the Phoenix Suns for real?
I mean, I don't think LeBron's ever went down 2-0 outside of the NBA Finals. Maybe that happened like against Golden State once or twice, but I think the Lakers in 6. I think Phoenix still wins another game. Devin Booker's too tough. They don't really have an answer for him. CP3 is not really shooting right now. That's easier. Aiden's still, taking a little bit of 80's, lunch money right now. This series goes 5 if AD plays like how we want AD to play. If AD is playing this sort of like wishy-washy, like floating out 18, 20 feet from the bucket, no, get your 6'11" self down there and dominate some people. Yes, pick and pop when you can, but be underneath the bucket. This is over in 5. Not, it might go 6 or 7.
Okay. I think some of the other series, I think we know the Wizards are going down. The Wizards are not beating the Sixers. The Heat, if it's not Jimmy Butler's, Michael Jordan run, they're not beating the Bucks. The Bucks
should have traded Tyler Hero for James Harden.
100%, because look what the team that James Harden is on is doing. 82 points for the first game with them. That team, and talking about the Brooklyn Nets, I was calling the New Jersey Nets again. The Brooklyn Nets look unstoppable. And I don't want to hear that they're facing off against the Celtics. I don't care. That team looks well-oiled. That team looks unstoppable. And that team looks really good. You ready for it? defensively. They look as good defensive as they do offensively right now.
It's Boston, though.
I know it's Boston. I understand it's Boston, and it's going to be a different thing when they get a big like Giannis or a big like Embiid in front of them. Fully understand that. But even so, let's say they go, even if they have room defensively to slack off, because their offense is so good right now. Although the fall that Durant took the other night, where he got undercut.
Yeah,
By the way, I'm going to say it right now. I get Marcus Smart's trying to get a call there, and I think he got the call there, didn't he? You got it. Like, that's still dirty. You can't undercut last second like that. That's like and I know we talk about unwritten rules in like baseball, like undercutting a 6'11" guy that's like that, man. I get that you want the call. I
got the same vibes with KD's fall. The same and then shortly when I watch KD, I guess in general now, the same way that I watched Alex Smith a year or so ago, whenever that was, when he came back, I get the same exact feel for KD right now. I worry about durability with him, just because, again, coming off an Achilles, you're a 6'11" dude. Yeah, he weighs probably like 210, but
that's still weight. That frame still takes something on your legs.
And I still worry about Harden. I mean, Harden's coming off hamstring stuff or quad and hamstring stuff. That's never a thing that goes away shortly. Like, that takes a long time. Yes, he sat out a month and a half, but I don't know. I still think Brooklyn can be beat, and then them having to go up against Giannis, and then the round after presumably would be Philadelphia. It's not an easy path. They will probably still make it out of it, but that is going to be a battle-tested team by the time they get to the finals.
I agree. Your opinion last week was that the Bucks would beat the Nets. Assuming health stays the way it is and everyone's healthy, seeing what the Nets have done, I know against Boston, but seeing that all three of those guys healthy and working together, like even if it is Boston, that offense looks really good. Do you change your mind at all with what's going on with Milwaukee?
I'm still going to give Milwaukee a puncher's chance, man. I think they're going to be
you chose Milwaukee to win. That's what I'm asking. I'm not asking a chance. I'm saying, do you change your prediction after seeing the Nets and seeing the Bucks? Because don't get me wrong, the Bucks have beaten the Heat. The Nets have dominated the Celtics.
Yeah, I still think Milwaukee can win in 7. I don't think it's a 6-game series. I think it's a 7-game series.
Okay.
Giannis is going to be super tough. Drew's going to be one of the biggest keys for them. Not what he's going to be able to do offensively, but defensively, where he really shines, is going to be the biggest key.
Absolutely.
If I'm Milwaukee, I'm putting Chris Middleton on Kevin Durant. I'm putting Drew on James Harden. I think Drew's 6'4", if I remember correctly.
Right, but he doesn't. You don't have to be that big to play Harden. Like Harden's more you got to say in his face. And
I'm letting Kyrie. I'm letting him roam. I'm putting someone else on him. I don't really care, because the ultimate thing, Brooklyn, it's going to be very tough to beat Brooklyn. You need Brooklyn to beat themselves. And the way that you get Brooklyn to beat themselves is let Kyrie go out there and shoot 25, 30 times a game. Let Kevin Durant and James Harden get pissed off when it happens multiple games, and them start feeling like, I don't really want to rotate that ball to Kyrie. And then Kyrie starting to turn the ball over because he's frustrated. And the things said in the media, like, that is how you beat them. So that's how I'm probably doing that if I'm the Bucks.
Who has a better chance of beating the Sixers?
Between Atlanta and New York?
No.
Between Milwaukee and them.
No one. Atlanta and New York. I'm sorry. Atlanta and New York's not beating the Sixers. I like Atlanta better than against the Sixers than I like the Knicks. But it's going to be Bucks Nets, in my opinion, against the Sixers.
I mean, I want Philly and Brooklyn to play because I want to see if they put Ben Simmons on Kevin Durant. That's the matchup I want to see. No one is going to stop Kevin Durant, but Ben Simmons guarding Kevin Durant would be an incredible matchup to watch. I would love to see that.
Then do you bring Tobias? Well, who do you run on Harden then?
I think you put Tobias Harris. No, maybe Thibault. That's a good point. I forgot about him.
Thibault's their best. I mean, Thibault's their best on-ball defender.
For sure.
Yeah. But, I mean, if you take Simmons out of the equation, obviously.
I was like, wait, don't slander Simmons.
No. I slander Simmons enough. I'm not slandering his defense. His defensive capability. He might be the best defensive on-ball defender in the league.
For sure.
And that's. I mean, I know that's saying a lot, but his length allows him to be that. I think a guy like Matty Thybulle coming in, he's only getting like 15 minutes a game. But if you need a defensive stopper that isn't going to really give you anything on offense, and you wanted to play James Harden, Thybulle might be the perfect defender on Harden. So
for sure. And then you just rotate as many dudes in as you can on Kyrie. You foul Kyrie a decent amount. You start bumping him and pissing him off.
Yep.
And you run a committee at him.
But the thing is, the one thing you're talking about here is like all of this talk we're talking about leaves Embiid wide open and do whatever he wants. And that's what Philly has to do, is let Embiid be Embiid and not get tired on the defensive end. Embiid has to watch Blake Griffin? Blake Griffin's nothing. Blake Griffin doesn't even take shots. He's not even a part of the offense anymore, which is perfect. Don't get me wrong, which is perfect for them. But that plays in Embiid's hand way too easily. Like, can you imagine a fresh Embiid on the offensive side every time?
And
like
that's
Blake's been very good defensively. So we're clear. Blake's been very good for them defensively, which is what they've needed. But against Embiid, that's another monster, again, brother.
Embiid is averaging 10 free throws a game for a reason. He has truly figured out, I believe, how to get the referees to call the fouls that he was not getting in those early years of his career when he finally got on the court. Embiid will be a monster, whether it's Brooklyn or Milwaukee. I just want to see the Philly-Brooklyn matchup would just be, I think, incredibly fun to watch.
Incredibly fun to watch was Monday on TV when Shannon Sharpe with Shannon Sharpe with what's the idiot's name? I can't remember the guy's name. Yeah, Skip Bayless on their show calls Julio Jones on speakerphone on his show on mic and says, Julio, what's going on? Because there was a picture of Julio in a Dallas Cowboys hoodie that was taken in an airport over the weekend. And Julio goes, Shannon Sharpe goes, so are you going to Dallas? He goes, or what's going on there in Atlanta? And Julio Jones audibly says on mic, I'm out of there, meaning he's gone from Atlanta. So he's essentially confirmed Julio Jones will not be back with the Falcons this year. Plus, when asked where he's going, he goes, I don't want to go to Dallas. I want to go somewhere I can win. Nothing pleases me more than to watch a major fan base get all brokenhearted at the same time. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about the Falcons here. I'm talking about the Cowboys. I'm talking about the Cowboys. When Julio Jones says, I want to go somewhere I can win, and the Cowboys, the first team, he goes, not there. First of all, talk to me about it. Shannon Sharpe calling Julio Jones live on air. I don't even know if Julio Jones knew he was on air because he went to lock all of his social media immediately after that.
I love and hate it, right? The part of me that loves it is the spontaneity of it. And I love it because we didn't see Julio Jones call on any players specifically, right? He didn't say anything detrimental to about Matt Ryan or anybody there. Didn't say anything negative about.
He could. Yeah. I've been underthrowing balls to him for years.
For sure. But he didn't say anything negative about, Dak Prescott or Zeke or Jerry Jones or anything. That part makes me okay with what happened, but it's also like 80% of me is okay with it, but 20% of me is still like, but you gotta tell him you're on air. Julio probably had some inkling, I would imagine, that he was maybe on air. Like he would have to know Shannon's doing the show daily, but I'm sure it wasn't like the forefront of his mind.
Julio doesn't think about that. Yeah. Well, isn't there some states where it's illegal to record?
Yeah, if you're on the phone, like acknowledging.
I don't know. I know Texas. I don't know where they record at, but I mean, obviously this is kind of shady with Shannon. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not a real fan of this. This is an obvious ratings get for him, and I know that there's probably no bad blood between them at this point. But you called the dude on speakerphone. Like you didn't call him and then put him on speakerphone. You called him. The phone rang on speakerphone when Julio picked up the phone. And I'm gonna be honest. I enjoy the slander on Dallas. The only reason he even mentioned the Cowboys because he knew there was a picture out there with him in a Cowboys hoodie. Like I truly believe it's the only reason he only mentioned the Cowboys. Still, with all of this stuff going around with Deshaun Watson missing OTAs for a good reason, Aaron Rodgers missing OTAs, and we already know why he's missing because he's already said he's not going to report. Now we got Julio Jones publicly, for whatever reason, saying he's not going to report. Have we gotten to a point, like, is this okay? Is it okay for players to continue leveraging this? I'm going to say specifically in the NFL where they are not guaranteed a contract.
Yeah, I mean, you knew where my brain was going. My brain's immediately going to I think this is a necessary evil that has to happen for the NFL to get to where the NBA is, right? The NFL lacks true player agency over their future. And that is, it's probably my least. I love a lot about the NFL, but I hate how players have more freedom than Major League Baseball, right? Major League Baseball is the worst. Like, yo, you're here, you got 6 years before you can be a free agent. You're probably getting to the majors if you're lucky, if you're a prime player, 22, 23. Then you're getting eligible for free agency at 29, 28. That part about player agency, I don't love. Then after that, yeah, you're Gucci. You get MLB gets played buku bucks if you're a top player. But for the NFL, like the lack of guarantee contracts, the frustrations that players necessarily have, and the lack of agency they necessarily have over their decisions to move around in the NFL. I hate that part of it. But I hope if anything positive comes from the Julio situation and what's going on with Rodgers, who, by the way, I'm glad he came out publicly and talked to Kenny Mayne and cleared up some things and said, It's not a Jordan Love thing. It's, just a lack of respect and fundamentals and things of that nature. I hope this leads to NFL teams like saying like, okay, you know what? You want out of here? We'll get you out of here. And we'll let players go somewhere else, see if the grass is greener on the other side. I want there to be more movement in the NFL than there is now. I think I love and hate that players will play somewhere for too long in the NFL, where in the NBA, that doesn't really happen. There's not really a thing where you see NBA players playing a situation for too long. They're often moved well before or given agency to go somewhere else. That just doesn't happen in football.
You're right, because they don't have that leverage, because at any point they can just be cut. The only people that really have that leverage are the upper echelon superstars. So I actually agree with you here. As much as I've talked crap about Aaron Rodgers being a diva, as much as I've talked crap about like I'll talk crap about Julio Jones too. Like, I don't like the idea of what Julio did. If he did it purposely, obviously, I don't think he did it purposely. This is more on Shannon Sharpe, but players doing that, I don't like that idea. At the same time, I recognize, these guys have got to remember they're not only fighting for themselves, they're fighting for the average NFL career length is 3.5 years. Like, there are offensive linemen that don't get the opportunity to do this. Like, they're talking about guys that beat their bodies up way more than they do at times. They're fighting for these guys as well. So more power to them. Speaking of aging and fighting for your body, Phil Mickelson over the weekend became, I believe, the oldest player to win the PGA Championship at 50.
I believe so.
Yep, lefty won, beating I think it was Brooks Koepka at the end there by a couple of shots. But then the story grows. First of all, congratulations, Phil Mickelson. Golf is better when Phil Mickelson's winning because we don't have Tiger anymore. So without Tiger, he's the next most notable name and the most fun to watch, even when he's not winning. But Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau had a little war of words where Koepka said he was in DeChambeau's head. And then somehow or another, Mickelson got brought into this and said, he said the video leaked after the PGA, after leading the PGA Championship, losing it, that Bryson DeChambeau fell because of Brooks Koepka. And Mickelson got involved in this and said, people realize I'm the one that won, right? And this is a direct shot at Brooks Koepka, by the way, because Brooks Koepka loves to run his mouth and has for a long time. He was on the match earlier today, Wednesday, and said, like, people realize that I'm the one that won the Wanamaker Trophy, right? Like, you guys are talking about Brooks Koepka. Koepka didn't do much either. So I love that there's trash talk even in golf now, going back and forth. So, and then, yeah, Mickelson tweeted today, I feel like I'm in the middle of something and should step aside, except when they want the current PGA champion, which I love. I absolutely adore. So, I think I love, again, a little bit of trash talk, getting people moving on. I love that Brooks Koepka tweeted out, "Sorry, bro," to Aaron Rodgers, and Phil Mickelson's exact reply was, "I feel like I'm in the middle of something and should step aside." Parentheses, except they want the current PGA champ, and there is nothing better than that shade on a trash talker.
I love you see old Tom Brady's tweets, right? Using that image.
Yes, that's part of this is because part of this is because Phil Mickelson is teaming up with Tom Brady,
for
and
that
Bryson
tournament.
DeChambeau is teaming up with Aaron Rodgers. Koepka literally said sorry, Aaron Rodgers, because DeChambeau's got to play with him. Yeah,
Got it.
that's where this is all coming from. I love it. I love it. Like, I'm a golf fan in general. This makes it so much better. Just the shade being thrown back and forth. Moving on, just real quick, we're gonna wrap up on this because I think this is important, and I'm glad you brought this up. Naomi Osaka, the number 2 women's player in the world, has announced on social media that she will be skipping all press conferences at the French Open. Talk to me about why she did this.
Yeah, this is huge. So I saw the headline obviously earlier before we recorded, and I applaud her. I think one thing I love about Naomi Osaka, first and foremost, is that she's been very outspoken. Whether it's been through some of the things she's done in press conferences or things that she feels she needs to stand up for, whether it's through clothing or hats or just whatever that may essentially been. She has a good history of standing up. So that's one reason why I obviously have been super supportive of her. But I think this is really cool. She basically said across social media yesterday, for you guys listening to it now, that she wanted to sort of step away from the press conferences, and it was completely motivated by her own mental health. And so her quote here is that I've often felt that people have no regard for athletes' mental health, and that rings very true whenever I see a press conference or partake in one. We're often sat there and asked questions that we've been asked multiple times before, or asked questions that bring doubt into our minds, and I'm not going in to subject myself to people that doubt me. I think it's super important because I think we've seen so many times where athletes have had these outbursts at reporters or media people or whatever it may have essentially been. And there's sort of everyone's like, wow, why did X player say that? Or why did, Russell Westbrook, for example, people say, why did Russell respond to that guy in such a negative way? People don't realize that athletes are having every aspect of their lives, social, professional, and everything outside of that, completely scrutinized. People will write, I mean, look at Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless is someone who has made his entire career outside of what he did initially when he was in Dallas before he decided to, hop onto an 18-year-old's sort of anti-bandwagon and flame LeBron James. But Skip Bayless's entire persona has been built on hating and dissecting and scrutinizing LeBron James. That is so unbelievably unhealthy, and that has spawned media personalities just like Skip that have been doing this to athletes. It has spawned hatred amongst the people that then liken their brains to analysts. And I don't think people understand how, this is a small tangent, analysts are so important in terms of how people consume and digest their information and then regurgitate it. There is a Sports Center effect or a Fox Sports effect where someone will hear something from an analyst, and then that then becomes in their mind Bible. They're like, oh, yeah, that makes total sense. And now they are regurgitating that, and that is now their opinion. This is happening consistently, and I do not blame Naomi Osaka for doing this. I respect it. She's probably going to get fined. I think she mentioned 20, in the article that it's like 20,000, but she's like, I hope they put that towards a mental health thing, which is great because she's now putting, I guess really she's using her leverage to say, you know what, if you're going to fine me, use that money for good rather than just putting it somewhere terrible. So I applaud her for that. And I hope more athletes sort of start to figure out ways they can, not be subjected to overly scrutinized behavior by media personality.
I applaud her because I tend to do this too. And this is when an athlete doesn't step up and do what we view as their required work, which press is one of them. Press, you are assumed as an athlete to have to do required press conferences. And even when I read this, the first time I read this, I saw the mental health piece, and there was a part of me that still even said, but she should still do press conferences. Like, you can have them moderated. She's the number 2 player in the world. She should do this. And then I started looking into just how badly mental health can affect not only athletes, but celebrities and all this other stuff. And the celebrities and their mental health. We make jokes about that, but it's very real. It is incredibly, and even as something like content creators to a much lesser extent, believe me, but having your life put out like in the open constantly, or having your internet life as we do, like every word we type on the internet is scrutinized at this point. And to some people, like even larger creators, like the way even cancel culture at this point, like you could say one wrong word and worry about losing everything. And athletes are the same way. They say one wrong word and they have to worry about their livelihoods. And I know that turns it into a different aspect of this, but she's absolutely right. If she feels like it weighs too hard on her mentally, emotionally, whatever it is, as long as she's taking the fine, she said, fine, I'll fine it. I'll pay the money. And at the same time, I like that she put the onus back on them. Hey, put this towards mental health, awareness charity. But I like what she really, this is the quote that really got me back on her side. This. And again, there's a part of me inside that goes, do the press conference, because that part is entertain us, monkey. Like, that's all that is. And it's so ingrained in our head at this point, because she said this: if the organizations think they can just keep saying, do press or you're going to be fined, and continue to ignore the mental health of the athletes that are the centerpiece of their quote unquote corporation, then I just got to laugh. And she's right. These large sporting organizations, everything we talk about, these huge organizations have made the rules and made it what's acceptable and what's not, when it really should be the athletes that are doing that. And props to her for stepping up. And, I hope I'm not the only one that learned something from this. I hope I'm not the only one that read this and went, oh, wow, you know what? She's right. She's absolutely right. Any company that you're involved in, any organization that you're involved in, if you feel like they have put undue pressure to make you do something you're not supposed to be doing, like, just because they said it's right for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 100 years, doesn't mean it's right. And I think that's opening people's eyes now. And I really love that. I really love that. I'm glad you brought up that article. Like I said, it taught me something within the last hour. It taught me something. So that's really awesome.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it goes back to, at the end of the day, athletes, and we talked about agency, for the NFL, for example. I think it's a thing that we have, taken for granted over the years. The athletes can have their worst day, they can have their best day, but we still expect them to go out there and, toe the company line and say the right thing and not be emotional. And then when they are emotional during that, which is them being human and not being a robot, right? We criticize them. And, I've made jokes about Kyrie before, and there are some things that Kyrie does that still irk me. But, Kyrie had a similar point not too many weeks ago, just saying, like, I'm done with press conferences. Like, the questions people are asking him, like, they were purposely baiting him to try to get him to say things that were then going to be headlines that they could use and then generate negative sentiment about him, which, again, we talk about mental health all the time. Like, imagine if everything after you do your job is someone interviewing you and trying to get you to say something just a way or two wrong, to Mill's point earlier, like using the wrong word or so here or there from a phrase that would literally just have you lambasted in social media and, throughout TV, and you can't turn on anything at that point. So
you mentioned sometimes they have good days, sometimes they have bad days. No one remembers the good days. They will remember the bad days forever. Absolutely. That's the problem. So props to Naomi Osaka for that. I really hope, it looks like Venus Williams started this before. Marshawn Lynch has talked about it before. You said Kyrie's talked about it. I really hope, at some point, this starts to get some fuel, get some steam behind this engine. So,
absolutely, amen on that. Well, Mills, a great episode. We're getting closer to the beard falling, just like the trees.
Mr. GGB from the press conference. Could you talk to me about what you really feel about the episode, please? By the way,
sorry, let me toe the company line. Wow, this is
while
an
we're wrapping up,
episode.
But I do want to wrap up, because you had a huge announcement that is going to, have something to do with the podcast at some point.
Valid. Yeah.
I want to congratulate you personally and professionally. You have a new job announcement. Please talk to us.
Wow, Mills said something nice about me. I'm crying. And you waited to the end of the episode, so I'm not surprised, because you're hoping people won't hear this. But I did accept a job opportunity. A lot of you guys know I quit my job in March. Talk about mental health. I was going through the ringer for about a year and a half at my previous job, and decided enough was enough. Took some time off, had some great conversations with lots of companies, and I accepted a job at 2K. So I'm working across, a ton of different games, not just NBA, which is a passion of mine, but a ton of different games there. I'll be sort of working as a senior manager for global community content and strategy, which is a really fancy way to say outward communication, ways that you're sort of giving information about the games and sort of how you're able to consume that. Like I'll be working on a team to do that. So incredibly thankful, hyped for the opportunity. But just know the podcast will still be here. We'll still be having episodes, still be talking about lots of stuff. And that was a super important part, when I was accepting that, of making sure that, content creation, the podcast, all that stuff would still be able to be done. And they were cool with that. So that was always great.
Congratulations. And I get to say this, like legitimately for the first time, I think in our entire like knowing each other. I look forward to working with you. Right? Yeah.
I'm looking for the block Mills button, but I still haven't found it. So,
Mr. GGB, can you talk about transparency? No, I'm kidding.
On that note, great episode, Mills. Thanks for being here. Make sure you give us a 5-star rating if you haven't already, and we'll check in the next episode to try to give a couple of shout outs. Be safe, be smart, tell somebody you love them. We'll catch you on the next one.
Hey, keep your eyes out for GCX coming up. GCX news coming up soon.
Very soon.
All right, ciao.
Ciao.